Hi, I'm Kevin Judah, along with Afshin Banav and Vincent Charles, and you're listening to and watching the nation's capital sports show where it's most definitely on. I just have one word about the NFL referees. They're back. That's right. The NFL was able to strike a deal with the NFL Referees Association, and they agreed to an 8-year deal, a labor deal, I should say, that includes a substantial pay increase. We'll start with you first, Afshin.
Absolutely, Kevin. And not only are they back, they got standing ovations around some NFL stadiums this past weekend. They get to keep their pension. That was one of the biggest deals, the bargaining chips that they had, where Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, wanted to take that away and have them use 401ks, which the NFL referees absolutely did not want to do. So they get to keep that until at least 2016, and then they'll switch over to 401ks by 2017. And plus, they got a bit of an increase in salary as well.
It's always a good feeling when they're able to adjust or to get a salary increase, Vincent.
It's good to see that the referees are back because the fans were clamoring for their return. And, you know, with those replacement referees, you know, they did not have control of the games. There was also a lot of calls that they missed, and there was also a chance of further injury, serious injury to some players because of this replacement referee situation.
That's right. It almost reminded me of a shootout at the OK Corral. There was a very sense of unlawlessness that was happening with these games. But in defense of the replacement referees, it was like a 15-page book that they had to learn. It was essentially on-the-job training. I mean, they did a good job. They did as well as they were supposed to do. But you're right, Vincent. If this was allowed to continue on, it would have been a major catastrophe in the NFL, and fans would have been screaming for Roger Goodell's head.
Right, and you saw, and you saw the biggest difference when these referees came back and officiated their first games in the fourth week of the season. So it did make a big difference that they were back.
One of the key statistics in the NFL game, per NFL.com, with the return of the regular officials, each game ran the duration of time. For example, if it was able to run 4 hours, it ran 4 hours. If it was able to run 3 hours, it ran 3 hours. That's what you like. And that's more so to do in part because the referees know the rules and they won't tolerate a lot of the shenanigans that the players were imposing on these replacement refs.
Absolutely. There were some games the first 2 weeks of the season, Vincent, man, where I would look at the first quarter and you're talking about an hour, almost an hour before the first quarter ended. Absolutely ridiculous because of the shenanigans that you're talking about.
That's right.
The scuttles and the fights and the scrums between the players literally after every single play.
And some would say, and I would venture to say this, that this deal was reached in the wake of the firestorm of criticism voiced by the fans over several games that were officiated by the replacement referees, notably that Green Bay Packers and Seattle fiasco.
Yeah, that's what happened in the end zone where one official called it incomplete. The other official called it a touchdown, and they reviewed it and gave it a touchdown, and clearly you could see that there was an actual interception on that play.
And what a fiasco that was. But incidentally, Green Bay this week almost had some more controversy because there was a play when the other runner on the kickoff was returning the kick and fumbled.
Right.
This was a New Orleans Saints player.
But the thing about this is basically what you have. Perhaps that was just the regular referees beginning to feel their game again, and we're glad that they're back. Think of it, the only time in which fans will clap for referees. I mean, you got to get, I mean, this is a Kodak moment, baby.
It was.
Key highlights of this deal allows the league to make some officials full-time employees beginning in 2013, and it also allows the league to hire additional officials for training and development. It gives the NFL the ability to assign those officials to games.
Yeah, it does, but they've actually had the ability to do that in the past, but now they'll have, I guess, they're a bit stronger in that area. What they've done in the past is the NFL the Referees Association has always had this agreement with the NFL that the NFL can actually take an officiating crew and say, no, you're not going to officiate this weekend because you didn't do so well last weekend, or there's been an inconsistency in how you call games and we don't like what you're doing, take a seat. So they have done that, but now they're going to have a little bit more power in who actually does officiate some of these games.
Well, that's a good thing. You like how this thing's actually going to finish
It's
for the rest of
accountability.
Thank you very much. You like how this thing is going to finish up for in terms of accountability for the rest of the season for the NFL and the referees and the fans, because this thing was completely about to get out of hand. Let's talk about the Washington Redskins. The The Washington Redskins win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 24-22. The Cardiac Kids, we need to call the Burgundy and Gold because once again, they almost lost this game. Afshin.
Yeah, they did. They were up 21-3, I think it was, and they just basically blew it. Billy Cundiff couldn't hit a field goal from anywhere on the football field.
But eventually he hit it where it counted because I'm quite sure he felt the strain of job insecurity, Vincent.
He did.
He certainly did, and there's a good chance the Redskins might be trying out kickers this week. But I have confidence in Cundiff. He's had a nice career, and he did a good job when he was with Baltimore.
Well, right now, as the saying goes, what have you done for me lately? He needs to kick more of those field goals. They need to go through the uprights. They need to go in. The Redskins improved their lot in life to 2-2. And so quarterback Robert Griffin III continues to improve and is proving himself to be quite the franchise QB.
He certainly is. Right now, he's on pace for 4,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing. It's amazing what this guy does. He's got poise, he's got character, he's got humility, he knows how to play, and he knows how to run a football team. And interestingly enough, on that last drive where Cundiff did get that field goal, his earpiece went out, so he did not have any contact with Mike Shanahan there. So he did that all on his own. That was his own play calling ability where he got the football down close enough for Cundiff to make that field goal.
Yeah, you got to like the way in which you see how this kid really improvises the game. And what about this, Alfred Morris, you know, the tailback, a new star, perhaps is born for the Washington Redskins. He really did himself some good.
I don't know where Mike Shanahan finds these guys. He's done it throughout his whole coaching career. Terrell Davis, Olandis Gary. He finds these 4th, 5th, 6th-round players, running backs, that perform well. And Alfred Morris from Florida Atlantic University near Tampa Bay comes in and gets 113 yards and a touchdown. So he really stepped up in the running game. He's done it all so far through 4 games.
Oh, what about this, Vincent? The Redskins redeemed themselves after squandering yet another sizable first-half lead. What is going on?
When you talk about squandering, yes, 21-3, this defense still has problems, especially the corners and the safeties, and that's going to be a problem all year. And they gave up a lot of passing yardage to Tampa Bay, and somehow Jim Haslett has got to stop these leaks in the defense.
I can imagine that his head is probably on a swivel in a bad way. Let's recap the NFC East. After 4 weeks, Philly is 3-1, Dallas is 2-1, and the Giants, of course, are 2-2.
And the Redskins are now 2-2, right up there with them. So it is a tough one in the NFC East. It's pretty much bottled up right now.
That's right. If we had to talk about the offense, how would you grade the offense, and what are the bright spots that you saw with the offense I've seen?
Well, obviously Robert Griffin III is the biggest, the most brightest of spots. Alfred Morris as well. I like what Fred Davis has done the last couple of weeks. I would probably give him an A- to a B+, somewhere in there, but they've done really well over the past 2 weeks especially.
All right, Vincent, how would you grade the offense?
I would grade them a B, specifically because the offensive line, we don't have the depth in the offensive line, and that shows at times when RG3 gets sacked. I do like Griffin. I do like Alfred Morris. I'm going to go with a B with the offense.
That's right, and I agree with a combination of what you guys said. I'm actually going to give the Redskins a B on offense. Let's talk about the defense. Wow, they just keep getting shored up. However, they did stop the bloodletting a little bit, at least for that first half of the game.
Just a little
bit. They didn't get as many points scored on them as they did in the first game. What can you say about that, Afshin?
Right, they did in the first half. But then again, it's Tampa Bay, and they have one of the worst passing offenses in the NFL. So, you know, they look better now. Actually, Tampa Bay's offense is probably going to move up a couple of notches after the second half. But the defense is horrendous right now, and Jim Haslett, he's got to find something to do. He's got to turn it around. Maybe play more man-to-man. Maybe play with more ferocity. Maybe blitz even more. Maybe disguise the blitzes. Do something on defense to give Robert Griffin III and the offense a chance to not only get the lead, but give the defense a chance to maintain the lead.
All right, so if you had to grade the defense, Vincent, what would be your grade?
Right now, C-. You know, they got to turn it around. These guys are professionals. They're getting paid. So this second line of defensive players, they have to step up.
Yeah, I'd give them a D right now because they just, not in a combination of injuries as well. Let's not forget Arakpo is gone and Carricker is gone too. But
Merriweather.
Merriweather. I'd give them a D.
All right. So if I had to grade them, I would have probably a little bit nicer than you. I would probably give them a C-, you know, a little minus for effort. Want to remind you that this is the nation's capital sports show on Arlington Independent Media. Watch us on Arlington on Comcast Channel 69 and Verizon Channel 38, or on YouTube at youtube.com/Arlington Media. I forgot to read that during the first referee piece. Kill me. All right, so let's get back. I'm talking about the Washington Redskins. The player of the game for the Tampa game, if you had your druthers, who would you pick and why, Afshin?
Well, can I give it to two players?
You can give it to as many players as you want.
On offense, I'm going to give it to Griffin, but there's got to be an honorable mention for Albert Morris, because that offensive line, like you mentioned a minute ago, Vincent, is pretty bad. And for him to get 113 yards against Tampa's rush defense, which was going into that game the #1 defense in the league, rushing-wise at least, was not too shabby on Alfred Morris's part. He's a gutty running back,
Yes,
and
he
I
is.
really like how he runs.
Yeah, I do too. Vincent.
I'd have to go with RG3, especially the leadership skills that he displayed at the end of the game. But honorable mention, again, to Alfred Morris and to Hankerson, 7 catches. He's starting to come into his own.
He is.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you guys. How about
Yeah.
that? That's the good thing about that, man. Wow, no fuss, no muss. I'm definitely in agreement with you guys. Let's talk a little bit about Robert Griffin III, because during the show, and we talked about this on numerous podcasts and shows here at the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. You talk in terms of Robert Griffin III. Your
Right.
thoughts is that he is not a running quarterback. Let's make that correlation between perhaps Michael Vick, and what do you mean by that, so our listeners and fans and actually viewers can understand what do you mean, the difference between a running quarterback and a quarterback that stands in the pocket.
What I saw from Michael Vick, what I saw from Robert Griffin III when he was at Baylor is the same thing that he's doing now. When he backs up to pass, his first thought is to pass. He will stay in the pocket and pass the ball. But if something breaks down in the system, he is not afraid to run it, which he has a lot of athletic ability. He can run the football. He's a mobile quarterback first. He's a passer. Then he decides to run. The interesting thing is he was obviously a big track star in college as well, and I believe in high school was one of the best track athletes to come out of high school. But he is a passer first. He has got a gun for an arm, and he's got a lot of accuracy in there, and people are not giving him as much credit for being a passer more than a runner. He's a la Steve Young, Kevin.
You sold me on that, Vincent.
I think he's definitely shown the passing skills. But to me, he should be known primarily as a quarterback with great running ability.
I think he has great passing ability though too, Vincent.
Well, when I say a quarterback.
Well, he runs when he
includes
needs to
the passing.
run,
Right.
and he runs when he can, and when we see him when he runs, he does marvelous things with that football there. In terms of Robert Griffin III, we talk about in this particular game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they let up a little bit on those options, which disabled the defense not to hit them so much, and that was a good plan. You kind of like what you saw
I like that.
in regards to the Shanahans.
Right, and Shanahan, of course, went up to him earlier this weekend, and he said, "Look, Robert, let's be careful with some of these runs. When you're running all over the place like that, you're going to get hit. We don't want you to get hurt." And he heeded Shanahan's call, and he did pass a little bit more this game than he has in previous games. And I maintain that the guy he's got poise. It's amazing what he does in the pocket. He's not afraid to take a hit. He's not afraid to pass the ball. He's not afraid to run the ball.
That's right, and he leads by example. And only 21 or 22 years old, you got to like what you see in Robert Griffin III. Let's discuss Atlanta Falcons, who will be marching into FedEx Field, and they're 4-0, and there are 2 other teams that are also 4-0 in the NFL at this point, and they are
the Houston Texans down in the big Lone Star State, not Dallas, Houston,
and
the Arizona Football Cardinals.
All right.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, man,
4-0.
who would ever thunk it?
That's right.
I know.
Absolutely.
The Sun State's doing good.
They are.
Keys for Washington to win against Atlanta. Let's talk about it in terms of defensively, Vincent.
Okay, defensively, they got to rush the passer because Atlanta has a great quarterback in Mr. Ryan. He had a great game this past week. He threw a ball from the goal line 59 yards to get them going for their last drive. So they have to stop him. They have to put on a pass rush. And defensively, the defensive backs have got to stop that passing game.
Afshin, let's talk about what the keys are for the Washington Redskins if they want to win this game against Atlanta at FedEx Field. Let's talk about them offensively.
Keep what Vincent said, keep Matt Ryan off the field. Matt Ryan has two great receivers in Jones and Roddy White and a great running back as well. Griffin III has got to stay on the field as much as possible and run the clock out. Every time he gets the ball, wear that clock down, wear that Atlanta defense down, run the ball, use Alfred Morris as much as you can, and get Fred Davis involved in the game just like he did previously against Tampa.
With Atlanta having a very potent defense, how do you stop them? I mean, and if you're the Washington Redskins defensively, man, you're talking about you really have your work cut out for you. I mean, what are they going to do?
They have to disguise blitzes on Matty Ice. They've got to be able to prevent Julio Jones and Roddy White from getting the yak, the yards after the catch. If they get the catch, that's fine, but they're such a threat when they run the ball after they catch the ball. That yard, they get so many yards after the catch. Stop it.
Did you just make that up? Yak.
Yak.
Yak, yak, yak.
Yak
Yards
yak.
after the catch. All right, just yak about how we see this game going in terms of the final score. First, we'll start with you, Vincent. Who do you think is going to win this game, the Redskins or the Atlanta Falcons?
Unfortunately, I'm going to give the edge to the Falcons. They can score points. I'm going to give the Falcons 31. The Redskins can score points also. Let's say 31-27.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a close one. Yeah, unfortunately, I have to agree with you, Vincent.
Is it going to be that close?
And I think it might be a little bit higher, but the score will be close. I'll say somewhere in the range of a 37-31 Falcons victory. I just think that they are potent on offense, and Matt Ryan has a few more weapons than does Griffin III, unfortunately.
Well, realistically, I agree with you guys, but I'm actually going to step out on a limb here. And actually, I'm looking at my score now. I'm going to change it on the whim here, and I'm actually going to let this thing be a high-scoring affair, and I'm actually going to do this. I'm actually going to say the Redskins are going to win this game, and I think they're going to win it. It's going to be, let's see, 35. And the Falcons, 28. That's how I see it.
You see it?
Yeah, I'm the brazen and bold here among you two. Perhaps I'm not being realistic, but nonetheless, I digress. I want to remind you that you're listening to the Nation's Capital Sports Show on the award-winning Stitcher Radio Network at Stitcher.com. Look us up on the Nation's Capital Sports Show. Up next, we're going to be talking about those Washington Nationals. One to win it, baby. Only one with 3 games left against their nemesis, the who they used to be the nemesis, the Philadelphia Phillies.
They still are in a way,
and that's
right?
where Chris Jerry, our very own Chris Jerry, stood us up. You know, that's where he's at. I'm outing you out, man. That's right. Anyway, this is the Nation's Capital Sports Show. I'm Kevin Jeter, hanging out with Afshin Banav and Vincent Charles. We'll be right back.
At Arlington Independent Media, volunteer producers of local television working together to bring the sights, sounds, people, places, and events of your community to you. Students of all ages and backgrounds learning the art and science of media production in hands-on workshops designed to empower and enable. Community leaders, friends, and neighbors gathering to discuss the critical issues that affect us all. More than 20,000 programs in the last 30 years produced by and for the Arlington community. A rich and diverse collection of independent voices building community. At Arlington Independent Media.
Hi, I'm Kevin Jeter, along with Afshin Banav and Vincent Charles, and we welcome you back to the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it is most definitely on. AIM provides the DMV community with classes in media production at their state-of-the-art facility in Clarendon. Find out more at arlingtonmedia.org. And it's just simply a great spot to be. Happy to be here. Happy that Arlington, or AIM, decided to air the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. All right, let's talk about those Washington Nationals who are on the magic number. And then there was 3 games left in the regular season. They're presently in a series with the Philadelphia Phillies. They need to win 1 game. 1 is all it takes. And our very own Chris Jerry is somewhere at Nationals Park watching that game. Afshin.
One singular sensation, right? That's all they need to do is they've got 3 to go, win 1, and you clinch the NL East, and you keep the Braves into that wild card game with the St. Louis Cardinals most likely.
That's right. And Vincent, you got to give the Atlanta Braves a hand because they've been testy. They've been pesky.
Yes.
They've been hanging in there. And at 90-66, they're only 3 games back from perhaps overtaking the Nationals. If the Nationals fail to win one, I mean, it could be a major catastrophe as far as the Nationals are concerned.
They have not been missing a beat, Atlanta. And I don't even want to talk losing 3 games. I want the Nationals to do it tonight.
I think they can do it, but let me be the voice of gloom and doom for one quick second. In the event that the Nationals fail to win 1 game, and of course Atlanta wins the rest of their games, what does that spell for the Nationals?
It would spell gloom and doom
That's
with a
right.
capital G and a capital D, because they would probably end up playing the St. Louis baseball Cardinals in the wild card in 1 play-in game, and I don't know if they could do that.
But we won't think that way, but we had to bring up that possibility. I know you guys always look at me and says, Kevin, you always have to be the voice of gloom and doom. Well, sometimes you have to be the voice of gloom and doom to get to the reality of it is. And the reality of it is that, hey, the Nationals need to get it done, and they need to get it done soon.
Yeah, I do think they will get it done, actually. If they, they may not win the first game in the series against the Phillies, but they will win a game in the series against the Phillies, Vincent, and I just can't see them faltering like that all of a sudden, and I think they will have a decent playoff run.
You got to remember, these last 13 games, they were 7-6, a homestand, and then some games on the road, but they were playing tough teams, playoff teams, St. Louis and the Dodgers, teams like that. So, let's look at it as a blip on the radar screen and let them get down to business starting tonight.
I'm quite sure they're in progress right now at Nationals Park, and they're getting down to business. And let's hope that the Nationals are going to win this one and get the NL East pennant. All right, we got some emails. You've got mail. Remember that from?
Remember that.
That's right. All right. Okay, that's right. We're talking about not the AIM here or AIM, but we're talking about American Online, AOL. That's a different type of monster there for those of you who are old enough to remember that. They're still around, right?
They're still around.
All right.
Still are.
Some young people use it, I think.
I digress. All right, Mark Davis of Arlington, Virginia writes, I disagree with Chris and Afshin's remark about not seriously considering the Nats GM Mike Rizzo as Major League Baseball's Executive of the Year. True that they got 2 gimmies in their acquisition of Steven Strasburg and Bryce Harper, but it was not a given that they would be successful. We must not forget the other players that the Nats have cultivated and watched mature, such as Ian Desmond and Steven Lombardozzi, just to name a few. And how about the resurgence of trusty veteran Adam LaRouche, mixed in with Ryan Zimmerman and Jason Worth? And lest we not forget the Nats' true ace in Gio Gonzalez. Great show, and keep up the good work. Afshin, Chris is not here to defend himself, but nonetheless, we're going to let you respond to that. And then, of course, we want to even let Vincent chime in with that as well.
First, I don't know if I can defend Chris as much, but I'll defend myself
defend
as much.
Well, defend yourself, man. Self-preservation is the first law of the nation.
It is.
So do that on the nation's capital sports. So preserve yourself, my man.
Mark Davis from Arlington. There is one thing I will say. I never said that Mike Rizzo should not be considered. As a matter of fact, on one of the last 2 episodes we've done, I said that he should be in the conversation. Where I agree with my friend Chris Jerry is that what Duquette did in Baltimore and what Billy Beane has done in Oakland with far less talent, to me, would give them just that little bit of an edge over Mike Rizzo. I take nothing away from Mike Rizzo and what he has done in getting the talent and the people that he has surrounded himself with, the scouts, to go out and find a Strasburg, a Harper, Ian Desmond, Danny Espinosa, Steve Lombardozzi, and those guys. And as far as LaRoche is concerned, I think I have also said before, I think he's been the most consistent Washington National throughout the whole season. But I agree with Mark. He should be in the conversation. I just think, like Chris, that maybe Duquette or Billy Beane might get the edge just because of the talent that they do not have that Mike Rizzo has.
I give Rizzo the edge in all facets, in the farm system, the front office, player development, free agent deals, bringing along these draft picks. I give Rizzo the edge. The other 2 guys, yes, they deserve mention, but I think the big picture, I go for Mike Rizzo.
All right, we're going to let you have the last word on that, my man, so you 2 actually can agree to disagree. And it didn't help because our listener actually added Ian Desmond's name. He mentioned that name. That lit up a smile on Vincent's face.
I got Danny Espinosa in there. That's
yeah,
okay.
I know. I know, man. Anyway, the next email comes from a very good friend of ours, Tim Holloway of Washington, D.C., Northwest Washington, D.C. And he writes, there are other players on the Nationals besides Bryce Harper that the press should be talking about. I don't get it. It's just a bit too much hype about Bryce Harper sometimes.
Yeah, I don't care what kind of toothpaste he uses to brush his teeth in the morning or anything like that.
Well, the good thing about it is, we talked about this when we were prepping for the show, is that here on the Nation's Capital Sports Show, we talk about Bryce Harper and other Nationals when it's appropriate to talk about. We don't follow the hype in terms of, well, what type of underwear that Bryce Harper wears, what type of car he drives, what type of steak he eats. My main inclination is what he does on the field, and to talk about that and to assess that like we normally do. We can't speak for the rest of the press here in Washington, D.C., but I've seen instances where you look at the press and you say, are they talking about the size of his shirt or what type of caps he wears? I don't give a flop about that, but nonetheless, I digress, Vincent.
Right.
Well, with all the media out there today, you can see where there's the overhype. Sometimes they need a story. And I'm sure the Nats PR department is helping to feed the story also because, you know, he is part of the brand.
That's right. And well, when you feed the story in that positive redemption in terms of talking about Bryce Harper, you feed that financial machine. I'm not, there's nothing wrong with that. Tim is just simply stating perhaps it's just a little bit too much when it's overkill. And I have to agree with Tim to a certain extent. Yeah. I'm not taking away anything from Bryce Harper as the player because we know that he does some stand-up type of play this season. I mean, look at it alone.
Right. I agree with Tim as well. I think, you know, and it's not Bryce Harper that we're criticizing here because you don't really even see Bryce Harper in the style section of the Washington Post eating at a certain restaurant or going somewhere on a day trip somewhere like that. It is the media, like you said, Kevin, that puts all these Bryce Harper shenanigans at the front of the conversation, and a lot of it has nothing to do with baseball.
All right, I'm going to let you have the last word on that. And as always, we invite your emails here on the Nation's Capital Sports Show. Our email address is tncsportshow@gmail.com. And believe me, gentlemen, we had quite a few emails, but I figured I would save those two best ones. And we thank you for sending those emails in to us. Let's talk about DC United. Bump, 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 bump. Now, right. DC United is on an unbeaten streak of 4 games. In their most recent home game at RFK, they got a 1-1 draw against the Portland Timbers.
They are now 15-10-6, 51 points. They have propelled themselves. Now they are, if the playoffs were to start today, they'd be in it. I think they'd be the number 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. They've got 2 big games coming up, Toronto and Columbus. They've got to win one, probably against Toronto, and at least draw with Columbus.
And I wanted to get this one in here. My long-winded friend, very verbose. I'm just joking with you.
That's all right.
Chris Pontius is United's top goal scorer so far this season with 12. That's all. That's my contribution to the conversation.
And one of the reasons he is because their MVP from last year, Dwayne De Rosario, has been out because he was at his national team Canada's game and he got hurt there, so he's out for the year. Should they make the playoffs, he might make it back for that. But Chris Pontius is having a good year.
Gotta love the excitement that you feel in the air when you're at RFK Stadium. Chris and I had an opportunity to catch the Nationals, DC United in full action, but we did catch the Nationals too this year. But nonetheless, Vincent, it is surely an exciting venue to go to because right now you can smell the playoff permeating in the air at RFK.
They're close, and I'm really surprised that they picked it up after that injury to De Rosario.
Yeah, they did, but that's, again, a credit to Ben Olsen. I'm a big fan of his, and he just knows how to switch up those players. He knows how to position them on the field at the most important times of the game. It's just getting their concentration.
I like that about him because he takes no favorites. And so what if you're the number 1 player, if you're the marquee player? If you're playing bad, I'm going to take you out the lineup, and I'm going to put someone else in. And if you get an attitude, well, I want you to get that attitude because that attitude will mean that, hey, you're going to take a little bit more pride in your game as a professional. You're going to go out there and do the things that you need to do to keep your spot and win a game and contribute to the team winning the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's done that this year, and he did it last year when he really started coaching this team. And I think that they would be hard-pressed to find another coach that could run this team the way he does. If he weren't here, they'd be in a lot of trouble.
All right, here's an assignment for all of us. See if we can get Ben Olsen on the show at the end of the season.
Okay.
All right, I'm serious.
All right.
That would be nice.
We could
Very
try
nice.
that.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Chris will give a visit for that. I digress. All right, let's talk about local high school sports, and that's your John Ray and your venue, and that's what you enjoy doing and talking about the most. So
Yeah.
what's happening?
I do it right here on Arlington Independent Media. We have our high school game of the week. A lot of high school games that happened this past weekend, the weekend of September 28th. Yorktown beat Stewart 41-3, and they've now won, I believe, 15 straight national district games. Yeah, say that again.
They just keep on just whipping folks.
You saw the Patriots win one of those games last year.
It's not just a regular win. It's just like, I'm
Right.
going to whoop. W-H-U-P. Whoop. You.
They did it. They did it. Westfield defeated Fairfax 35-3. Centerfield got by Hayfield. Now on the Maryland side, the big game in Montgomery County was Quince Orchard. They beat Einstein. Seneca Valley, rather, got by Quince Orchard. Two top teams in the whole area, but Seneca Valley won barely 12-9. Einstein, Wooten, Walter Johnson, they won their games. And in PG County, Wise continues to roll. They are undefeated. They are one of the top teams as well. Kevin and Vincent, 47-8 over Northwestern. And one more game to talk about. DeMatha, they come in. We got a lot of O'Connell viewers, I know that. They come into a big contest, both of them out of the WCAC, undefeated at 4-0. And I thought that would be the contest of all contests. It was nothing. DeMatha, 41. The O'Connell Knights, 10 at O'Connell in their new stadium.
Wow.
And the game we did, that wasn't anything to brag about either. Devin can tell you, our producer, 49-14, WNL over Wakefield. That's the game we did.
Big scores.
Big scores, and
scores.
some of them were just blowouts, and unfortunate for the Wakefield Warriors. I hope they turn it around.
I hope they turn it around too. We had a segment that we were actually going to take out, but we're going to put this back in. We're going to talk about social media in sports. And by all means, we're not trying to be armchair psychiatrists or psychologists here. We just want to talk about how things such as MySpace and Twitter and Facebook plays in sports, in high school and pro athletes and the pros. An incident that happened when Andre Bloch was here last year in terms of when he was playing for the Washington Wizards and when Flip Saunders was the coach for the Washington Wizards. Allegedly, he said that someone hacked his account and posted something very disparaging about Coach Flip Saunders. Well, I don't know as to whether or not that's true. We're not here to debate that, but we're here to talk about social media in terms of how it relates to student athletes. Should it be allowed during the course of regular season for these athletes?
Well,
The use of it.
Yeah, the use of it, it is allowed. And I don't know if that's unfortunate, but
But my question is, should it not be allowed?
for student athletes,
Exactly.
I probably would say no, it should not be allowed for student athletes. No, I don't think it should be. I think that their main purpose should be to concentrate on the game that they're playing and to listen to what their coaches and teachers say during the course of their college careers.
Vincent.
Now, are you making a difference? When you say student athletes, do you mean high school? Do you mean college?
Well,
Which
you
one?
fill in the blank there. You fill in the blank. I mean, do you think that it could be student athletes? Do you think it should be collegiate athletes? I mean, you fill in the blank. I'm leaving it open-ended so you can
Okay.
respond.
All right, student athletes, whether high school or college, I think they should be allowed to participate in the media, in this social media, but with boundaries. Especially the older they get in college and even these pro athletes, there needs to be regulations, and they need to.
And I'm quite sure there's a code of conduct, not to cut you off, there's a code of conduct that perhaps student athletes do sign. I do know that they sign it on a collegiate level. And I'm not here to talk anything bad about, we're not here to talk anything bad about social media. We're just basically trying to make the point that today, in today's society, we didn't have the Facebooks and the Twitters coming up, and so therefore what we did was kept between us, luckily, right? But nowadays you do something at the breakneck of speed, you snap a picture, you tweet something, and you can't deny it, that's not you.
Right.
That's not me who is drinking copious amounts of liquor, and running around naked. I'm just saying, so therefore there needs to be some parameters set here in how student athletes or how social media is used today. I mean, it's a good thing. We all seen it's a beautiful thing when you're able to communicate with folks and when you're able to spread the word. But I'm talking in terms of student athletes when it comes to these type of things. They just seem to me need to use a little bit more jurisprudence And I'm not going to say common sense, but I'm going to say good sense.
Yeah, good sense is a good word. There should be some boundaries, though. I agree with Vincent on that, and I agree with you, Kevin. There should be some sort of boundary, at least during the season of a high school or college football player, basketball player, at least during the season, where you cannot do this during that week of a game or 2 games. Definitely not when you're on the court or on the football field, which is what some of them do.
That's right. Oh, and here's a big thing.
No.
Perhaps take a deep breath and think about the implications, because I'm not saying when you're young you're thinking all over the place, but I can only speak for myself. When I was younger, you kind of like take a deep breath back and think about the implications of what you're about to say and what you're about to do, because it only takes 1 second to do something bad that you will regret and didn't mean.
I agree. What these administrators need to impress upon these kids is you need to use good judgment.
That's right, and I'm quite sure they are impressing upon the kids that they need to use good judgment, Vincent. I'm thinking that perhaps student athletes need to take a step back once again and think about their actions before they proceed in terms of using, the Facebooks and the Twitters and the MySpace. I mean, that's all I'm saying in regards to that. I mean, it's a good thing when it's used. We're not here condoning that. I mean, I use Facebook all the time. I don't use Twitter. I don't use MySpace, but Chris Jerry, who sends out copious numbers of Facebook Facebook per day. I think he
writes novels.
Yeah, I know he does, doesn't he? But I digress. We won't talk about Chris like that. I think he broke the record. He sent out 58 one time. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about in brief. And first, we'll start with me. I have only one thing. In the NBA, John Wall will be out 6 to 8 weeks. The NBA season starts near the end of this month on Halloween, correct?
Right at the end, yeah.
That's right. And the injury to John Wall, I forget, but it's something to do with...
It's a stress injury, and he'll be out, like you said, for I think almost 2 months. So it's a big loss, actually, for them.
That's right. Well, not baseball, but of course we know that basketball is non-essential until next year. I don't mean to say that. You got the NFL on, baby. I mean, I got other things to do, although I'm going to catch a couple of the Wizard games.
30 wins.
That's right.
We need 30 wins this year.
All right. The Wizards need 30 wins, not we, but Vincent.
I would like to mention that the coach of the Capitals, Adam Oates, he's going to be coaching the minor league Hershey Bears.
As if he has no other choice.
That's
That's right.
Hey,
what else
might as well get his feet wet.
He's getting paid, right?
Yeah, to get his coaching credentials in on that. But that's a good thing. I'm messing with you.
He's going to coach him up too on ice.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Yes.
And it could be a blessing in disguise, because he's seeing these kids in the farm system, bringing them along, and I know that the kids will be excited. These young players, but he can gather a lot of information from watching these guys.
Yeah, that's true. Afshin, you're in brief.
I actually was going to talk about the Washington Castles, but I changed my mind. I want to talk about the internet company called Living Social. And Living Social has done something that the learners didn't want to do. I don't know if you take their side, then you'll say that Metro and DC didn't want to do it. And that is the learners are going to pay the bill for the Washington Nationals, should they make the playoffs, right? When they make the playoffs, that they will pony up the money to keep Metro open a couple extra hours every evening. Now, Living Social is just an internet company based here in the nation's capital area, and they offer all kinds of goodies like discounts at restaurants or hotels or even cruises, all kinds of stuff. So good for them.
Good for Living Social. Bad in terms of for the learners, and really bad for Major League Baseball. I think it's just a travesty. And I'll leave it at that.
I second that, Kevin.
Wow.
Just a bad move by the learners, and it's really nice to see that Living Social is stepping up.
It really is, and it's good PR for them. I don't care. It's good PR for them, and I think it's a stain on the learners once again that they can't just pay that little bill, $30,000. They make $30 million,
But I'm quite sure the taxpayers of Maryland, D.C., and Virginia appreciate Living Social. So get on over to livingsocial.com, right? All right. So I'm going to read this one more time. AIM provides the DMV community with classes in media production at their state-of-the-art facility in Clarendon. Find out more at arlingtonmedia.org. And on that note, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. It has been one big good show for us all.
Well,
on behalf of Afshin Banab, Vincent Charles, Kevin Jeter, and the entire Nation Capital Sports team, including Devin Gallagher and the rest of the team, we thank you very much for listening to us on the Stitcher Radio Network and for tuning us in here at Arlington Independent Media on Comcast 69 and Fios 38. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.